Hi friends, welcome to my channel, Yaya's Heart Tarot. Today's October 23rd and I'll be bringing readings, messages from the departed. First, I'd like to apologize for being gone for a while. I took on a fairly large landscaping project, and the translation of that is I bought a bunch of plants on sale that needed to get in the ground before it started to get too cold where I live. I'm in the Midwest, so it's kind of unpredictable when it's going to be cold, when it's going to be hot around here. We had 20-degree temperatures early last week, and now today I think tomorrow we're supposed to close in on 90 degrees. But I had to focus on getting these plants in the ground, and it was a pretty big job. So I had to step away for a bit so that I could spend my weekends getting that done. Had to move around a few things, but anyway, I'm back today to do messages from the departed readings. Things are still up in the air with the channel. I'm not sure when I'll be getting back to doing my Monday and Wednesday readings, hopefully soon, but I'm still working out kind of some scheduling issues with some new classes that I'm taking. So, without further ado, before we get to the groups today, I'd like to go through the meditation messages. If you are new, you may not know about the meditation messages. If you've been here before, you've probably heard this spiel, but bear with me. Before I do readings, I meditate to center myself, to balance, to ground, and I've discovered that I oftentimes receive messages, and these messages, I believe, are messages from the departed letting you know who might be coming through. So some of your departed loved ones may send messages to give you some idea of who is coming through for you, or to let you know that they're here. So I usually try and go through these messages. There's generally 4, 5, 6 messages, just to kind of throw that out there. It's really open to interpretation, so you'll have to take what resonates with you and leave the rest. If none of it resonates with you, that's fine. There won't necessarily be one of your loved ones sending a message ahead of time, but that doesn't mean that the readings won't resonate. They still very well could resonate for you, but these are just kind of a little extra added kick for some of you whose departed really wants you to know that they're here. So let's go ahead and go through these messages in the meditation. The first vision that I had was of a man in his probably mid to late 40s. He had dark hair and a dark mustache, a fairly prominent mustache. He was wearing like blue jean overalls with kind of thin straps. He appeared to be some sort of a tradesman, like a plumber or a carpenter or perhaps a mason, someone who worked with their hands and built things or repaired things. He looked like he might be Italian or Middle Eastern, and I heard the words easy communication when I saw this vision of this man. I didn't see him doing anything in particular. He was just kind of, maybe a little bit of a smile, but just kind of perhaps he was, resting or something. But it struck me with the phrase easy communication that this would have been a man who either could talk to anyone, could strike up a conversation with anyone, although he didn't seem like he was like terribly outgoing. He wasn't the center of attention, but that he could speak to anyone and be comfortable and make them feel comfortable at any time, at any place. And of course, communication can go the other way too. This might have been an individual who was really a great listener, who could make you feel heard, that you sought out when you needed an ear to listen. And of course, both may be true. He didn't strike me, though, as someone who was outgoing and boisterous and center of attention. He just was someone who, if you talked to him, he could easily return the conversation to you, or if you were standing in line at a grocery store and he was in front or behind you, he might make a comment and start up an easy conversation, just something that made you feel a connection. So the next vision that I saw was of a woman who was probably in her early 30s, and she was gardening. She was on her hands and knees in the garden, and she was digging. She was planting. She was planting what looked like geraniums, although they weren't blooming yet. It was just the leaves, but geraniums have pretty distinctive leaves. She was wearing a russet-colored, kind of a long sleeve with kind of billowy sleeves, a dress, I think, or it may have been a shirt, like a button-down shirt, but it had a collar and it had kind of long sleeves with cuffs. And then over it, she had like a full apron or a pinafore of some sort that was a dark green. She was thin but sturdy, and she had very wavy, sort of fine auburn or red hair, which was kind of pulled back but still had lots of tendrils getting loose. And in the vision, she actually reached up to wipe off some sweat and brush some hair out of her face with the back of her hand because she had dirt on her hand from gardening. And I felt that it was really hot. I got super hot. It was wherever she was working was very, very hot. And then the next vision that I saw, so that may ring a bell with you. You may recognize the person by the description. This might be someone that you gardened with when you were young. This might be someone who always had geraniums growing at their house. I didn't get any particular like verbal messages or anything with this one, so it's just kind of more of a visual. Someone who loved to work in the garden. So the next vision that I got, initially it started out there was just a tree branch was all that I saw. It was as though it was coming, it was like almost like a picture on a TV, and all you could see was just this branch. It was a deciduous tree, so it had leaves on it, but it looked like it was a fairly young branch tree, and it was backlit. And as this vision clarified, I realized that the backlighting was a wildfire that was in the distance but not far away. I want to grab my other notebook because I took some better notes on this one in my other notebook than I did just jotting down the notes as I was meditating. This tree was in the path of the wildfire, and it was pretty obvious that it was imminently going to come and consume this tree. And then I had a feeling, or I saw a child. It was a little boy, and he was about 6 or 7, and it was this innocent sadness because the tree was going to be gone or consumed by the fire. This tree was in the backyard of a home, and the home was nearby as well. The home was he was standing and looking at the tree. The home was behind him, and it was obvious that if the tree was in the path of the fire, so was the home. But the little boy didn't even enter his awareness that the home would be destroyed. And I don't know if this was his home or a loved one's home, but he was just profoundly sad because this tree was probably not going to survive the fire. And he had recently planted this tree. He had helped his grandfather plant this tree. So that's why I say I don't know whose house it was. I don't know if it was the boy's house or the grandfather's house where this tree was planted. But it didn't even enter his awareness that the home was in danger. All he could think about was that this tree that he worked so hard to help his grandpa plant was going to be gone. He was so proud of himself. He was just a little guy, but Grandpa let him use the shovel, let him help dig the hole, and so he was very sad that this tree was going to be gone. So, if that rings a bell for any of you, then this is your loved one coming through. The next message that I had and it was just extremely brief, but maybe it'll mean something to some of you. It was a cartoon mouse driving a little car. It seems like there was some story back when my kids were little, so that would have been back in the 90s probably. Seems like there was some story about a group of mice, and I also heard Gulliver's Travels in my head, but I don't think that the mouse was Gulliver. The mouse may have been Oliver or something similar, but I honestly can't remember. But I got this vision of this little mouse, and it was in like a kitchen somewhere driving this car. It was a cartoon mouse. So I know that there are various stories about mice living in little miniature homes and driving little miniature cars and that sort of thing. So perhaps this was a story that your loved one read to you, a story that had some significance for you and this loved one. So it may ring a bell for some of you, and if it does, then your loved one is here. And then the final vision that I had was I was standing on one bank of what appeared to be a fairly large lake. And way off in the distance, way off in the distance, there was lights shining out over the lake. It was dark. It was very dark. The water was black. There must have been a bright moon, though, because it wasn't pitch black. But there was like a building on a, it wasn't really a peninsula, but it was just kind of a point in the lake. And the lights from that building were shining out over the water in the distance. The water was absolutely glass, still and calm. And I got the impression that these lights were from like a marina with maybe a restaurant, although I don't think it was anything that was still open. It was I just got this very, not necessarily a desolate feeling, although it bordered on that. It was just very lonely and empty and quiet. It was like in the dead of the night, and there was no one else out. There was no sound, just these lights out over the lake. And then as I was looking at this vision, I suddenly got an itching, a very strong itch right in the back of my neck at a particular spot, which felt a lot to me like a mosquito bite. So I am getting the impression that this lake was someplace in like the northern U.S., like Minnesota or Michigan, or perhaps in Canada, in that same area where there's a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of lakes. So if that has a connection for some of you, if that visual is something that you remember or something that's familiar to you, if you had relatives who lived on or near a lake, or you went to vacation at a lake, or maybe you live at a lake, but if this vision is familiar to you and it brings to mind a particular departed loved one, then they're here for you. So that was the visions that I had, the meditation messages for this reading. So let's go ahead and get to the groups that we have. We're going to do 2 readings today, and for each reading, the groups that I have chosen some stone slabs that I have, and honestly I can't tell you for sure what these stones are. I know one of them came in just a random mix of some slabs. The other one I got recently, and I could probably look it up and tell you what it is, but I didn't want to go do that right now. So the first group number 1, we're going to call this a green and tan polychrome jasper, which I think is what it is. I think it's a polychrome jasper, but it is predominantly green and tan, so we'll call it the green and tan jasper. The second slab, or group 2, this I believe is a jasper, but it also has some chalcedony in it. These little light blue specks here are like a chalcedony, however you want to pronounce it, embedded within this rock. So we're going to call this one jasper with chalcedony. So group 1 is green and tan jasper, and group 2 is jasper with chalcedony. So whichever stone group calls to you, just the number of the group, whatever it is that helps you to choose which group you would like to hear. Make your decision. And the groups will be linked to timestamps down below in the description box. So just drop down to the description below and click on the timestamp that corresponds to your reading. And it'll take you directly to your reading, and I will see you there. Hi, Group 1. This is your reading. The green and tan Jasper slab. The first message that we are going to get is to let us know who it is that's coming through for you. So Spirit, could you please provide messages as to who is coming through for Group 1? Who is it that's coming through for them? Spirit, can you identify yourself? Who's coming through for Group 1, please? This is not feeling like it's the right deck. Let's try this one. Thank you, Spirit. Who's coming through for Group 1? Okay, so we got the Magician, and we got the Five of Wands. So this was a person who had just a ridiculous amount of potential, but their life was very confused. They were always going in 12 different directions at once, and if something showed promise for them, like perhaps they were an incredible athlete, they would always do something to screw it up. If they were, say, just a tremendous high school athlete, and they had great promise of, a scholarship to go on to play in college, and get, their schooling paid for if that's what they wanted, then they would undoubtedly get into some sort of trouble that would ruin their chances, that would get them kicked off of the team, or just something that would stifle their potential. And they had a lot of potential. This individual could do just about anything effortlessly. Everybody, including you, was really jealous of how easy things came to them. They may have excelled. In fact, they probably excelled in just about anything. Excelled in, the academics. Excelled in, possibly sports. And this doesn't necessarily have to be in school. They may have been someone at work who got promoted easily and who could always figure out anything new that came along. And they had easy relationships that started for them. People just would gravitate to them, and it was easy for them to connect. It was easy for them to do pretty much everything. But whenever they had something that was potentially a good thing for them, they figured out a way to screw it up, to lose whatever it was that was showing up for them. If it was a relationship that was just with an amazing person, that had great promise of, being a lifelong relationship and really being good for both people, they would somehow chase away that person, or leave the relationship themselves, or do something that was harmful to the other person and cause them to break off the relationship. If it was, if they got promoted into a position of some sort of responsibility, or better money, or just a great position that everybody wanted, they would just not come to work one day and not bother to call in, or they would not be conscientious in doing the job, or they would say something to the wrong person. They just always managed to lose whatever it was that they had. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating to everybody who knew them because they had such potential, but they just never seemed to be able to make anything stick. It was almost like they were self-sabotaging all the time. So that's who's coming through for you. Spirit, thank you for those messages. And departed, thank you for identifying yourself. And what was the relationship between this departed and group one? Departed, what was your relationship with group one? How were you related, or how did you relate to each other? Okay, this is a lot of cards. There was a complicated relationship. Yes, yes, yes. Very complicated relationship here. Yeah. Wow, so the first two cards that I saw were the Devil and the Five of Cups. Self-imposed limitations or addictions or blocks in this person's life led to great regret. It may have been that somehow they blocked their relationship with you, and that led to a great deal of regret for them. Yeah, and okay, I'm seeing this now. The way that they blocked this relationship with you is that they kept things from you. They didn't tell you the truth, or they flat out may have lied to you. And that caused, and they couldn't help it. It's almost as though, when something good came along, they had to run from it. They had to just get away, whatever way that they could. But they realize now that the relationship that they could have had with you, we got the Queen of Cups, we got the Princess of Cups, and we got the Three of Wands. So this relationship could have been the jackpot as far as emotion goes, as far as emotional fulfillment. The relationship that they had with you had the potential to be the one that was like more fulfilling than any other relationship that they'd ever had for both of you. It was really an ideal match. It was something that, you hear people say, he completes me or she completes me. Well, this was that relationship. This was that kind of thing. But because of these old ties that bound this individual to this behavior of self-sabotage, they ended up not being truthful with you, purposefully hiding things from you. It caused a great deal of regret and sadness and sorrow for you. And perhaps now for them, and it may have even for them at the time, but they couldn't help themselves. They had to get away from this relationship just because it's probably some old contract that they have in their soul that they can't be happy. So that's what their relationship was to you. It was a relationship that had the potential to be extremely fulfilling, providing just a great deal of love and happiness, but they bolted. They purposefully did something to make some distance, create a block. That was their relationship to you. So, Spirit, thank you so much for that message. And what we want to know now is Group 1, do you have a question for this departed? What would you like to ask them? What do you want to know of them? What is the question that Group 1 has for their departed? Okay. Wow. Big message here. Let's see if I can put this all together. Well, first of all, we got the Emperor and the Empress. The Emperor and the Empress. This is a soul connection. And we got the Four of Wands, which is like an announcement of great celebratory importance. Something that you want everybody to know. It's an announcement that involves a connection, and it's a connection that you want to make the rest of the world aware of so that they can celebrate with you. Also, we got the Three of Pentacles, which is another energy of connecting, of working together, of learning from each other. So, Group 1, I feel as though you felt this soul connection with this individual. You knew that the Emperor and the Empress, that it was the ideal soul connection for you. It was your soulmate. That would have been a connection that you could learn from and grow together, and that it would have been like the perfect completion. This card of announcement oftentimes speaks of like a wedding, a joining, a ceremony to join together two individuals. It's not always about a wedding, but in this case I feel like it is. I feel like you felt that this was going to be your soulmate connection. But all of a sudden, very, very suddenly, this departed loved one left. They left you completely alone, and you felt like you had been just absolutely stabbed in the back or stabbed in the heart. You felt betrayed. You were tremendously hurt. And this happened just like out of the blue, just like all of a sudden, something happened that just destroyed the relationship. And I'm guessing from the previous messages that we've gotten that it was something that this departed did that just left you in the dirt. And there was no explanation, and there was no warning. It just happened. And so you're wanting to know that because you felt like both of you saw this as your soul connection, your soulmates, that was going to be something that you would grow old together, you would get married, you would grow old together, learning from each other through your life. What happened? Why did this happen, and what happened? You just want an explanation as to why they pulled away, why they couldn't commit to what you both felt was a soulmate connection. So, Group 1, that's your question for your departed. I'm feeling like we need a different deck. Maybe now is when we need this one. So Spirit, thank you for those messages, and Group 1, thank you for your contribution as well. What is your reply, departed? to the question that group 1 has asked. What is your reply to this? What is the reply to this question from the departed, please? This deck does not want to cooperate today, although I feel like we need to use it. Let's give it a little more time here. Departed, what is your reply to group 1's question of what happened? Why did you pull away? I may have to go about this a different way. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay, this one wants to come out too. Okay, the Magician. So we got the Magician when we began. We've got the 5 of Pentacles, which we just got the 5 of Pentacles. We got the Tower. The Valet of Wands. The Valet of Goblets, and the High Priestess. Okay. Your loved one is saying that in this lifetime, they always felt as though they had to have something new all the time. There had to be, they always felt like there was something more. They always felt like they couldn't commit to any one thing because that would prohibit them from finding the one thing that they were looking for. They felt like they needed to keep their options open. They needed to be unencumbered. They needed to be unattached so that they could seek out something new. They were always looking for something new. There were so many things that they wanted to do. So many things that they just felt like they needed to dabble in everything. They always needed to have something new. They were always looking for a new start. And so when this relationship that you had began to look like it was going to be something that became an integral part of their life, and became probably the biggest part of their life. It was something that they had to commit to. It was something that was going to give them responsibility, that they were going to be responsible for another individual's happiness, your happiness. They felt hinged upon their commitment to this. But they felt like if they made this commitment, that they couldn't continue to pursue all of the new things that they wanted to do. And this was a reason that they had sabotaged so many things throughout their life, like we talked at the beginning. Because when something looked like it was going to become something stable, that was going to require commitment, that was going to require time, that was going to require responsibility of them, they felt trapped, like they needed to get out because there was so much more out there. That was always kind of they had this inner drive that there was always so much more out there, and they were just really afraid that they were going to miss the one big thing that they needed to find. The irony of that is that this relationship probably was the one big thing that they needed to find, but they didn't see that. They were just so focused on just being an island in themselves. They were fiercely independent and needed to stay fiercely independent so that they could pursue this next great thing. Ironically, they knew that this was not sustainable. They knew that everything was going to come crashing down every time they got to something new, which is why they probably jumped away from any sort of commitment, because every time they got into something that felt like a commitment, the whole world kind of fell down around them. They probably didn't realize, and okay, that's what the High Priestess is here. I wasn't sure what the High Priestess was here about. She is saying that they didn't have the inner vision. They didn't have the capacity to look into themselves and to understand and to realize that they were the ones who were bringing these things crashing down around them. Excuse me. That they were the ones who were causing the failure of everything that they set toward, because of this fear of getting trapped in the wrong thing. So that's their answer to you. That's why they left, because they have this just compulsive, driving fear of getting trapped in the wrong thing. And so every time something good comes along, something that is stable, that's going to require them to stick with it, to commit to it, they panicked. They had to get out. They felt trapped. They felt like if they committed to something, then it would ultimately be destroyed. And so they may have been looking out for you as well. That could be another reason that the High Priestess is here. They may have seen you as someone who was larger than life, better than reality, and they didn't want to destroy you by engaging in a commitment with you, because they felt throughout their life that anything that they committed to ultimately went bad. Even though it was likely of their own making, but they didn't realize that. They couldn't see that. So that's the answer for you. That's their answer to your question. They couldn't commit. They feared that it would destroy what you had with them, and so they had to leave. Spirit, thank you so much for that message. So the last message, or the last query that we have for you, Spirit, is, do you have any message for your loved one here in Group 1? Do you have any message that you would like to pass along to them? And we need another deck. This one was just too hard to work with, so we're gonna set it aside, and I feel like it's done now anyway. So let's get a different deck, and again, thank you, departed, for your messages. Do you have any final message that you would like to leave for your loved one? Message that you would like to leave for your loved one, please. Any messages that you would like to pass along to your loved one? Okay. We got the Five of Pentacles and the Fool. And this is literally the Fool. It's typically not, but they're saying that they were a fool for deserting you. They were absolutely a fool for deserting you, and they realized that you two were genuinely lovers, and that your love was what would have brought them fulfillment in their life, finally. So that's your message. Your loved one says they were a fool for deserting you. I've never seen the fool used that way. But they're saying they were a fool, and that they recognize now that you were indeed soulmates, and that the love that you had for them would have filled them up, would have been a continuous source of fulfillment for them, and they realize that now. And so they're sorry. Wow. Thank you, loved one, for that message. So, before the reading, I intuitively pulled an oracle card, so let's take a look and see what card that we got. The card we got is the Hound and the Pair, which symbolizes loyalty. So let's take a look at the book and see what the message is for the Hound and the Pair, which is card number 23. These are all numbered in Roman numerals, so I'm really having to go back to school to figure out where I am here. Okay, 23. The hound is the ultimate symbol of loyalty and friendship. Stories abound in folklore and throughout history of dogs protecting their companions, saving children, and alerting their masters to danger. The legend of Saint Guinefort is one such story. The 13th century French greyhound saved his owner's infant son from an attack by a viper. When the owner came upon the scene, he found Guinefort with bloody jaws sitting beside the empty cradle. Believing the hound to be the murderer, the owner killed Guinefort. Only later, when he heard his son's cries and discovered him beneath the cradle next to the dead snake, did he realize his tragic mistake. Like the faithful hound, the pair is a symbol of care and affection. Often given as a gift, it is sweet but easily bruised, requiring tenderness from its handler. So the message is a friendship is flourishing, your kindness and loyalty have been noted, and your friend appreciates you. And the questions that are posed are, am I loyal to my friend? And how can I improve my friendship so that my companions feel loved and appreciated? So I believe this card is a request from your departed loved one to look upon them kindly. They did love you. They realize now their mistake, and they hope that you still love them. So group one, that's your reading for today. I hope this answers some questions if you had them. I hope that this provides you whatever it is that you needed from this reading, and I greatly appreciate your being here with me. I hope that you'll come back soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi group two, this is your reading, the Jasper with Chalcedony Slab. The first message that we'd like to get for you today, group two, is who is coming through for you. Spirit, can you please identify yourself? Who is coming through for group one, please? Who is coming through for group one, please? Excuse me, group two. Who's coming through for group two? do that a lot. Group 2. Who's coming through for group 2? Thank you, Spirit, for these messages. Thank you. So we got the 9 of Cups. We got the 6 of Wands. We got the 4 of Swords. The Sun card. And the 2 of Swords. So, this individual presented a very happy face. They were strong, they were loving, they were happy. They, on the surface, by all accounts, were just like the most happy-go-lucky, friendly, loving, their life was great individual in the world. But they hid another side of them. They had 2 sides that they were torn between, and the other side of them was a deep, dark secret. It was something that they dealt with only themselves. They didn't let it be known to anyone else. It tied them up. It was most likely an emotional tie. It may have been a mental issue. And when it struck, it completely bound them up. This individual may have been someone who would disappear for a time in your life. That time may have been a day, it may have been a week, it may have been years. But they would just sort of fall off the face of the earth with no particular explanation. And you probably always assumed that they just got busy with stuff. Because as you knew them, they were capable and strong and happy and just out in the world doing their stuff. But again, they had this duality that kept them. They had this secret side that they didn't reveal to others. And I don't know if you even knew about this, which is going to make it hard to identify who this is. You may have known about this, but you may not. So, Spirit, can we get some additional identification for you if your loved one didn't know of this? Is there something else that they would identify with about you that would help them to know who this is, who you are, that's coming through? All right, let's see what we got here. We got the Hermit, the Ace of Cups, and the King of Wands. So again, we're getting the same energy. We're getting this, able to start new, wonderful things that were, happy. They were able to, and they did, instigate gatherings and they were someone who just wielded this sense of, they came across as being someone who was just so capable and so passionate about things. I mean, they made life fun. They just absolutely made every new thing fun. And they made everyone happy around them, and they could handle anything. They just were someone who could just seemingly do it all. You know, they were the host at the party, the person at work that you wanted to sit by on your break, or wanted to go to if you had a question, because they could always help you to understand things and make you feel, if you felt like you screwed up something, or you didn't understand something that you felt like you probably should have, they never made you feel small. They didn't belittle you or make you feel stupid. They helped you to see that you had the potential and you could do this, and they helped you to do these things. They lent a hand and gave to everyone, and made them feel capable, and made them feel happy. You just loved being in their presence. But they had this internal thing. It was like a switch. And when it got flipped, they went inside. They pulled inside, and they didn't talk to anyone. They didn't see anyone. They didn't go out. They didn't interact. They just had to be by themselves. And they just had to withdraw from the world, basically. So I'm almost getting a feeling that this person maybe had some bipolar issues, or they had terrible anxiety that would flare up from time to time. I don't know specifically what the situation is, but the vast majority of people who knew this loved one or this departed thought of them as that outgoing, happy, can handle anything person. But they had this thing that was just theirs, that only they knew, that just took them away from time to time. And when they were in the grips of this, there was nothing they could do but to let it pass. So hopefully that will give you an idea of who this is that's coming through. Thank you, Spirit Departed, for that message. And maybe this will help. What was your relationship with Group 2? What was your relationship with them? What was the relationship of the departed to Group 2, please? We may need a different deck. Let's try this one. Spirit, what was your relationship to Group 2, please? What was your relationship to them? Okay. We got the Sun card again, and we got the Ten of Cups. It's interesting the way these cards laid out. We've got the Sun card and the Ten of Cups, which are great cards of happiness on this side. We got this card, which is an extra card in this deck that is just a card of nothingness, or of emptiness, or of it's like a stop sometimes. And on the other, or a division. And on the other side, we have the 8 and 6 of Swords, which speak of being separate, being taken away from, being restricted. So we're getting the same energy again about this loved one, that they had this just marked division between this happy-go-lucky, loving individual and this deep, dark, painful secret. So I'm still having a hard time seeing what is their relationship to you, unless you shared this with them. This dark side is something they kept from you. Very much so. They kept this from you. They went away from you when it happened, and they kept you in the dark about it. In the dark. You didn't know about this. Or if you did, it wasn't from them. They didn't tell you about this. They kept these two facets of their life very separate, and they kept this dark side from you. So, Spirit, thank you for that message. Could you give us some more clarity on what is your relationship to Group 2? How are you related to them? Clarity on the Ace of Swords, please. Clarification. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we initially got this dark moon or the new moon, and now we're getting this waning or waxing moon. I think this is waxing. So toward the end, of their life, they began to open up to you. They just brought in the tiniest little bit of clarity for you. They had just begun to try and open up to you about this other side of them. So they had just scratched the surface. They had just begun to let you in on this dark side that they had, to explain it to you, to show you somehow. So again, I'm still not sure what the relationship was. I feel as though that this individual was... I'm not getting a feeling that this is someone that you really counted on, like a parent, or, a best friend or anything like that, or a love interest. But this was someone that was in your life. Spirit, can you please give us some additional clarity as to your relationship with Group 2? I'm still having trouble telling them who you are. The Page of Swords. So again, we're talking about this new energy of bringing clarity. So this whole line here is talking about they had just begun to make you see or help you understand that they had this dark side. So I'm wondering if this is someone that had some sort of a terminal illness or something, and they knew they were going to die, and you took them to treatments or something. Somehow you helped them, or maybe they were like a neighbor who lived nearby, and you went to just keep them company because you knew that they weren't well, but maybe they didn't have a lot of other people that were close to them in their life. And so I feel like toward the end, they wanted to tell somebody about this darkness that was in their life. Because I feel like they felt like they left some loved ones in the dark about this. There were like questions from their loved ones. Where did you go? Is there anything we can do to help you? Do you need something? Is there something wrong? And they would never admit that there was anything wrong. They just, would make some vague excuse about why they were gone or why they couldn't come, or why things were suddenly different with them, because it always passed eventually. And so, but now I feel like they knew that they were going to die soon. And so, again, I don't feel like they were like a close loved one of yours. I feel like they were perhaps an acquaintance or a neighbor or something like that. And they felt like they could tell you about this when they couldn't tell their closest family or friends or loved ones. So I hope that makes sense to you, because that's the message that I'm getting, who this person was and how they were related to you. And it kind of makes sense now why I can't get a better picture of this if they weren't really close to you. But I also can see how if they let you into that confidence, that it would leave a mark for you. It would be something that you would remember after they passed. Endeared them to you, or you to them, because you shared this big secret with them. So thank you so much, Spirit, for that message. And what does Group 2 want to ask of you? Group 2, what is it that you want to ask this departed individual? Okay, well, we got the Knight of Wands, the Page of Cups, and the Queen of Pentacles. And so basically what I'm getting from this, these can all indicate people. And it's a wide variety of people. We've got, the Knight of Wands, who is an individual who is driven and passionate and goes out to get stuff done, or to fight fights, or to right wrongs. And we've got the Page of Cups, of someone who's young and innocent and loves deeply. And we've got the Queen of Pentacles, who is someone who is a very solid mother figure, someone who makes a good home for their family. So we've got this very, very different assortment of people here. So I feel like Group 2, your question of this individual, of the departed, is, do you want me to tell your family about this? I feel like that is your question for the departed. Do you want me to go to your family and tell them about this? Do you want them to know? So that, I feel, is the question, Group 2, that you have for the departed. So thank you so much for that message. And departed, what is your answer to this? Departed, what is your answer to Group 2, please? What is your answer to them? Asking if you want them to talk to your family and let them know about this dark side. Okay, so we got the Death card, the Justice card, the 8 of Wands, and the 10 of Pentacles. And the first card that I saw was the Death card, and my strong inclination about this card is no. No. The departed feels as though nothing will, it will just throw things off balance if they know about this. I'm not sure what these cards are here about. The answer is no. The departed does not want you to tell his loved ones about this dark side of his. Yeah, I feel as though he feels like he went to great lengths to help their lives be balanced, to always, so that they always felt safe and secure and like their world was okay. Even though he always knew that this was very tentative, he knew that it was going to require, a lot of fast thinking, and things were always, they were never stable in reality. But he worked hard to try and let his family feel like things were balanced and stable and secure and strong for them. So he's feeling that by telling them, it would only bring them regrets and confusion. Spirit, can you please clarify the Eight of Wands for me? Clarity on the Eight of Wands, please. Why is this here? Oh. The Ace of Cups. Well, the way this card came out, your loved or your departed is just... I don't know that this necessarily clarifies the Eight of Wands, but what they are saying in a very forceful way is that knowing this would take away their happiness. That's what it is. That's what the Eight of Wands is. This is, if they knew this, it would suddenly rip away their happiness. It might not be devastating to them, but it would be something that would bring them sadness. And this departed absolutely does not want his loved ones or her loved ones to have any sadness because of their life, which is done now. That's the other thing that this Eight of Wands, this has happened, it's over, it's done. So there's no sense in bringing it to them at this point. So the answer is no. This departed does not want you to bring this to the attention of their loved ones. Spirit, thank you, departed, for that message. Thank you so much for that and for the clarification. And do you have any additional messages for Group 2? Do you have a message for Group 2 that you would like them to have? Okay. So we got the High Priestess and the King of Cups. So what this individual wants you to know is that your understanding and your just listening to them and letting them explain things and have someone there to take it in and give them some... Just by being able to tell you, it gave them some clarity and some comfort. And that's what this King of Cups is about. That by you being there to lend an ear, to be kind enough to listen, to allow them to get this out. They kept it within themselves for so very long. They didn't tell anyone. So by you being there to listen and understand and give them that understanding, it created a sense of what's the word I want? Just a sense of comfort for them. It gave them, it wasn't happiness so much, but it gave them a sense of calm, comfort, and it just let them, I'm sorry, I'm completely blocking on the word that I want, and there's a reason for that, but I can't tell you what it is. But your being there to listen to them, to understand them, to give them that ability to get this out to another human being, gave them, they gained so much compassion from you that they just felt, well, relieved is the word that I'm hearing. And it's much stronger than that. The sense is much stronger than that. But it was very important to them. And so they want you to know that, you providing that ear for them, you providing that kind listening, just comforted their soul. It comforted this ragged place that they had to keep to themselves for so long. They had to deal with it all by themselves. They were so alone. That's why we got the Five of Pentacles twice. They were so alone with this knowledge, and they didn't feel like they could share it with anyone, but because they didn't want to hurt their family, they didn't want to hurt their loved ones, they didn't want them to worry about them. But you being kind and compassionate enough to allow them to get this out just absolutely soothed their soul. So it was very important. And they want you to know that they very much appreciate that, because you saved their life. Pulled an oracle card ahead of time, so let's see what card we got. We got the Goat and the Willow, which is about overcoming obstacles. So let's take a look at the book and see what we've got here. This is the number 11 card. So, the goat is a symbol of balance, jumping with ceaseless energy, perching easily on even the narrowest footholds. So balance, we're back to this balancing act that they did their whole life. Its vitality and grace are enviable. The willow is a symbol of mourning, often appearing on gravestones. In Greek mythology, willows are said to mark the entrance to the underworld. When combined, the goat and the willow show us that there may be losses to suffer, but we can overcome them with renewed energy and the right balance. So, in addition to what the book says about the willow is a plant, a tree that bends very easily and can bend a great deal farther than many types of trees can bend. You can bend a willow branch and it won't break. So willow, in my mind, is also a symbol of resilience and being able to bend, being able to, again, it's that symbol of balance, of stability and of resilience. So a recent loss may have you feeling down, or a new unfortunate obstacle may have appeared in your path. Realign yourself with your goals to regain control of the situation. So I'm feeling as though your question of whether or not you should speak to the family about this, about what this departed shared with you, has had you a little off balance, and you've maybe been stressing over it, you've been fretting over it. So now, getting this message from this departed that they don't need you to tell their loved ones, they're fine with it. They don't need their loved ones to know, and their loved ones will move on. Hopefully that's lightened some of that burden for you. I hope that that message, this has been an interesting reading for me because again, oftentimes the readings are, loved ones who come through who are very, very close, or tragic deaths close to the people who are the reading is for. But in this case, this was such a unique reading because I feel like this individual was, while they were friends with you and you were very kind to them and they were kind to you, it was more of an acquaintance kind of a thing, a friendly acquaintance, a neighbor that over the years you get to know them, and because you've gone through this time being in this close proximity to someone, you begin to say hello, you begin to bring the mail up to the door when it's raining for them, so it's interesting. And I'm touched by this connection. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this reading. And I hope it's meant as much for you as it did for me. And I hope you'll come back and spend time with me again, because I so enjoy spending this time with you. So I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.